we're at ASOTUCON 2025.
Yep.
And one of the coolest things that I've heard in the last 2 days, you just said.
Okay.
This event is not to pitch, to sell.
Correct.
This event is to build community, to build relationships, to understand who people are, what they represent, whether it's another vendor that might be a collaboration or partnership in the future, or it might be a potential dealer partner in the future, but it's to build relationships.
Correct.
The fact that you said that, we're just walking in the hall.
Yeah.
We're coming here to set up, to understand. That is probably one of the most impactful things that somebody said in the last 2 days.
Well, I appreciate that. But I mean, that's really what it is. So, you know, I've attended, this is my third one I've attended, so they've had 4. And you could just see the difference from the very first one. I've been doing conferences in this space for over a decade, and you always had to work. You kind of felt like a, you know, for the lack of saying, a homeless person pedaling. And
I can understand how that can feel.
The very first ASOTUCON, like, I went up to introduce myself to a couple dealers, and they actually were like, "Oh, hey, so what are you guys doing? How have you fit into this?" And it was just like, "Whoa, what's going on?"
It's like the Twilight Zone,
like,
right?
This is weird. Is somebody punking me? Like, it was just interesting. And so every year now, you see more and more of that, and people are getting more and more comfortable.
It's interesting to me that from a 30,000-foot view, if you look at the majority of content that's in the automotive space, you see sponsor this, and you see partner that, and you see buy this. You see the content that's published by a lot of dealers. You look at their social feeds, it's new car, hostage photo, buy this service, or whatever the case may be. They preach when you see many get on stage at events like this, not this one, but you get many of them see, you know, buy our stuff. But they're saying that they're actually saying to their public, which they aren't, is we need to build community and need to have relationships.
Right.
So somebody said this morning, I can't remember which session it was, but somebody said, and I'm gonna fumble this a little bit, so bear with me, folks. I'm not listening to the words you say because I see what you do.
Okay.
So in that instance, at this event, you're listening to what people have to say because you can see them doing the thing that actually matters.
Yeah. You know, when you get out, it's funny because you talk to dealers, and within a few minutes, you can kind of tell who would be in a soda type of a dealer, and maybe who isn't, right? And there's nothing wrong with either one of them, but you do have an opportunity to have different conversations. I think more engaging conversations when you know they're in a soda dealer versus maybe somebody that isn't familiar with it, or maybe just isn't as bought into, you know, the idea of collaborating, community, and those type of things.
Gotcha. And I think you can almost feel that. You feel that when you walk into the event. You feel that when you talk to somebody. And it's interesting that Gen Z is teaching us something.
Right.
It's vibe.
Yeah.
Right? It may not be the word that we've been using for the last 20 years, but it's vibe. If you're not gonna vibe with somebody, you don't want to do business with them.
Yeah. I'm obviously, 20 years older than almost all of my reps. Actually, no, it's 30, because not a single one of my reps were born when I graduated high school. And this is my 30th high school reunion year. So I tell them all the time, like, eliminate negative people. Eliminate negativity in your life. You don't need it. It's a waste of your time, and it's a waste of your energy. And the more you eliminate that, it's amazing how much better you feel, how much better you sell, how you are perceived when you walk into a dealership or really anywhere.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'll give you a brief story. I told this many, many moons ago, and I haven't said this out loud, but I think what you just said there kind of sparked that. Many years ago, my dad moved away from corporate.
Okay.
And he's a certified management accountant.
Sure.
So he moved away from corporate, and he bought a book of business as a wealth management advisor. So he'd been doing that now for several years, and his business had stagnated.
Gotcha.
He was managing a lot of people, Now, wealth management, they call them rooftops. No different than we do. Or households. No different than we do in automotive. His business stagnated.
Right.
So, because he's really intelligent, he thought, okay, how do I move past this?
Yep.
So what he did is he packaged together, just like a M&A person would kind of do, packaged a whole bunch of households together and sold off the bottom 15% of his business to somebody who was just starting out.
Yep.
And what that is it cut something like 70% of the volume that he was working with.
Right.
So he only focused on like the top 30%.
Okay.
But they were the bottom 15% performers.
Gotcha.
So all of a sudden he freed up a dramatic amount of time.
Right.
So he could focus on the folks that not only were higher net worth, but were more likely to buy more, maybe take more risk, maybe have the capability and capacity to go, okay, let's try this. So when he would spend the hours that it would take to do the research to figure out, okay, what's a really great option for these people to accelerate their income growth? All of a sudden he 10x'd his business. So he sold the bottom 15% and 10x his business in 18 months.
And they were probably more loyal, higher retaining clients, less squirrely, if you will. So that's awesome.
The challenge that I didn't say in there is that some of you might have picked up on is that 18 months was really hard because all of a sudden he dropped a gigantic amount of income out of his business.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's the risk of doing something like that. But the risk versus reward to 10x your business in perhaps 18 months, that's huge.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about cutting out the negativity, it wasn't necessarily negative, but it was negatively impacting the business.
Sure. Yep.
So in the same circumstance, we're coming into a place where we're trying to cut out the negative. We're trying to cut out people who don't match the vibe, right? When they come into events like this.
Correct.
So one which you guys are sponsoring quite heavily.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've been thank you. We've been really big into this. Like I said, from day one of the event, because we saw what Kyle and Paul and the entire ASOTA team were building. And you can't help but want to be a part of that.
Exactly.
So
it's I use the phrase true leadership is magnetic.
Yes.
So when you come to an event like this, it feels like you're drawn into conversations with people who are magnetic. You're drawn into sessions and the sessions that you kind of want to walk out of.
Correct. Yeah.
And the sessions that you want to, it's like, what's the phrase from Top Gear? Jeremy Clarkson always says they lean in when they want to see their track time. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Sure.
That's the kind of thing that's happening at this event. So to give my audience who's slightly more fixed focused, what's perhaps something that you've learned at this event that might be impactful for somebody who's in fixed to learn?
What I would say is there are dealerships that are being very strategic in how they are innovating and how they're leveraging technology to provide a better fixed ops service experience. Some of that may be as simple as leveraging video. So I'll give you a great example. My youngest son is 20 years old. He's a sophomore in college. He's going to school 4.5 hours away. I'm on the road 3 weeks out of the month. His car that he had, that we'd had in the family for 25 years, that I actually sold to my grandma when I was working at a dealership, was starting to obviously have some bumps in the road. And there were some issues with it. And instead of just trying to convey it to my 20-year-old son, who maybe wasn't as familiar and would not know what to do, they sent me a video of like, hey, here's the problem. Take a look at this. Because they did that with that transparency and leveraging technology, I was like more likely to go, okay, yes, please repair that. Because of the distance, because of, me being on the road, I can't just easily get there to help out. So things like that, when and where to leverage AI, whether that's, scheduling or following up on service appointments, whether that's, helping with just inbound leads or opportunities that are coming through. So it's interesting to see how certain dealers are embracing those things and how certain dealers are kind of maybe scared, hesitant.
I see that. Some of them, some of the sessions. Now, Ryan Rohrman's talk this morning was incredibly impactful. He literally laid out his mission. He laid out his two mechanisms for success, and the really big one is he laid out his tech stack. So, folks, I'm going to try and publish that because I recorded that for some of you who are fixed, who want to understand what the variable is going through, to try and understand what a top-tier operator is doing for their tech stack standpoint, how detailed he's going into, and the kind of things that they're doing to try and create new opportunities. To understand that in that presentation, let's see if I can get it right. They went from a 12.4 conversion rate from, I think, I'm going to get this wrong because I'm not a variable guy. It's like click to close.
Okay.
It was like a 12.4 conversion rate. They're now operating over 30% because of the way they've cleaned their data, because of the way they're operating through their entire lead process, how they're operating in their follow through and follow up, depending on what, and as you mentioned, using the appropriate amount of AI for your business.
Okay.
So that's something to take into service. A lot of service operators aren't quite getting or don't quite have the volume of technology that variable has. I'd really like to see that come over and be as transparent.
You know, there's actually a really cool thing that we're rolling out. It's called Relo.
Okay.
So Relo is to assist within the parts ticketing process.
Okay.
So it's a robot.
Mm-hmm.
So as the technicians are, walking through, assigning what they got to do, which parts that they're going to need for, the RO, they place that order, then it goes to the parts department and they load up Relo with the necessary parts, and then the robot delivers them to the technician.
Nice.
So the technician can stay in their bay, and the parts ticket person can continue just working. So they just continue to load up Relo, send them out, whatever orders they need to place. So it allows, a lot of inefficiencies to be removed. And again, it's obviously early on, but I think, from a dealer standpoint, the profitability that they're going to be able to have because of those time savings, it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Now, I have a very McDonald's question for you.
Okay.
That goes through the process.
Yep.
Technician sends in their P&A.
Yep.
It goes to the parts department. The parts department gets the P&A and they're reading through it, or it's in queue.
Sure.
Do you have a way to display on the technician's screen to say this order is in queue, this order is being built, this order is about to be launched, or however you phrase the out, and this order is being delivered?
Yes.
Oh yes, baby.
Yeah. So all of that is actually built in from the DMS side.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Because I've had several parts conversations over the last 2 days, and I try to have as much parts conversation. I literally just dropped an episode with Robert Migliaccio from CMA.
Okay.
And his love of parts, he came up through parts.
Right.
He's now leading store. Like, the focus on parts, and I've said this for decades.
Sure.
You can dramatically change a business with a high-value leader.
Correct.
The second person, not the fixed director, the second most important person that can change the output of the business is the parts manager. You get a decent parts manager, you get a good parts manager, you get a great parts manager. But if you get a high value leader parts manager, whoo, business changes the game.
And you need a dealer that has the vision to see the value in that. So, I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio, which is where Reynolds & Reynolds is headquartered. And there's a small dealer, family owned and operated for, at this point, I want to say 60, 70 years. But the son saw something that was an untapped opportunity. They maybe sell 100 cars a month. So not a big volume dealer, but the amount of parts business they do, it's over $1 million plus a month. It's ridiculous. They feed out so many different places. He bought another dealership on purely just the profits from parts. And he's flat out told us, he goes, I can't afford to leave Reynolds as my DMS because it's the only one that can handle the volume of what we do from a parts perspective.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's tremendous when you actually look at it, and especially like when you go visit the store and you're like, wait, how is this happening? But he gets it. So,
and it's those that get it that really make a difference. So that's truly. So I asked this question every guest I've ever interviewed.
All right.
What's your one piece of advice for a technician to be happier, healthier, more productive tomorrow?
I would think, not even just from a technician standpoint, but really anybody in the business, take care of yourself. mind, body, soul, everything. Because again, you know, if you're at a dealership and you don't feel like your value is being appreciated, if you feel like you're being, you know, just another number, if you will, don't stick around. You know, from a technician standpoint, there are so many opportunities. I would also say invest in yourself. You know, technicians can make a lot of great money. The more they learn, the more they invest in themselves, the better off they're going to be. But more importantly, you know, the best service managers, the best, you know, fixed ops directors, and honestly, even I've seen some really good general managers were technicians first. You know, and let's face it, it's easier on the body at some point than, you know, turning wrenches for, you know, 30, 40 years.
I will say as a couple of things, changing out wrenches for the camera. Years and years of doing this. Or this with the wrench. It's hard work. But what I didn't realize is holding something steady for long periods of time is as hard, if not harder. Okay, so don't come after me. It's like, oh, he's not working that hard. Believe me, carrying around this camera for 2 days has been a lot of work.
Oh yeah, especially with all the people.
Oh yeah. It's been awesome. It's been absolutely awesome. So I really appreciate the input.
No, I appreciate the opportunity.
Really appreciate the input.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Folks, how can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. The name's Travis Hafer. I'm with Reynolds & Reynolds. That's probably the best way.
Awesome. Folks, remember, negative pushes, positive pulls, and always clean your toys before you put them away.